feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming at you Saturday night. It's April 19th, right after Game 1. Immediate reactions coming up from Kyle Theige, Britt, Robson, and myself. Let's go. Today's show is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino. I want to let you hear this right away off the top. If you go to Treasure Island for the Game 2 watch party, somebody is going at the watch party is going to win a fully funded trip to a Wolves playoff game. I'm assuming it's going to be Game 5 or Game 7 here in this Wolves Lakers series. The watch parties, as Kyle and I hosted there a few weeks back, happened in the Parlay Lounge at Treasure Island. They got drink specials for every game. They have free food there for both Timberwolves and Wild playoff games. They are going to have the watch parties there, but go to the Game 2 watch party. Somebody is going to win a fully funded road trip that includes airfare for 2, lodging for 2 nights, and 2 tickets to see the Timberwolves in Los Angeles, or if you go to the Wild one, for the Wild in Las Vegas for Game 5. Stay tuned to TICasino.com. All right, we are here at Crypto.com Arena. I got Britt, Robson, and Kyle Theige with me. We're going to give some, I guess, just our immediate reactions to the Wolves. What was the final score there? 117-95. I mean, that's kind of a crazy score, even just saying it out loud again. I mean, just, I guess, scale of 1 to 10, Britt, how surprised are you by this result?
By the result, not that surprised. I thought it would be a good, exciting series. But if you asked me halfway into the first quarter, I'd say I'd be shocked. I mean, I really did think that all the pessimism could be shown in that first 6 minutes or so. And from then on, there were a series of runs that made a huge difference.
What about you, Kyle?
When Luka hit the half quarter, I looked at you and said, I'm not having any fun. But I was just nervous. But I think what was most telling to me, there was one stat that I want to bring up, but then also two, just they start, like Britt said, those first 4 minutes where they not only turn the ball over, they throw the ball into the fourth row. Like they had no poise, they had no structure, they had no real plan. And then to kind of settle themselves down, and then Ant, obviously, we'll get into, had some words at halftime to kind of get the guys going. But they had another really big lead in the third quarter. And anyone who's watched this team all season knows what it's like when this team has a lead. And to outscore the Lakers in the fourth quarter after Luka hits that 3 to gain all that momentum, I think maybe, at least for one night here in Los Angeles, it's like a team that learned from previous mistakes of not letting that momentum swing in Milwaukee carry over to the playoffs.
I'm not sure if Britt's still comfortable. It was a 20-point game, and Britt was like, I don't know. There's 3 minutes left.
I almost turned Britt into a gambler. Like we were, thank God we can't bet in LA.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is that I looked at the series really carefully and broke it down into certain components, and the most fraught component for me has been poise and composure.
Right.
And how many times have I looked at you and muttered something nasty about the Timberwolves, and you looked over at me and said, it's in their DNA. It's who they are.
Right.
I mean, you probably told me that a dozen times.
It's true.
So you hear it a dozen times, you figure, well, maybe he's right. So here it goes.
Right.
You know? I mean, all of a sudden they're cutting it down, and they're cutting it down in all the ways it happens. Finch gets a technical. They get a little bit of a fracas because somebody commits an obvious foul and doesn't want to admit it. They shoot too soon. They shoot inaccurately. They turn the ball over. I mean, we've all seen the movie. And so I thought this was the opportunity. It was there. They had earned up to that point. But as we've talked about all year, this team thinks it owns something before it owns it. And it was satisfying to see that didn't happen tonight. I thought the Lakers missed a lot of open shots in the first quarter, and I thought they missed a lot of open shots in the fourth quarter to begin. And I think some of that really obviously helped. And that's what you need. You need both sides of the equation. You need a team ready to give in a little, and you need a team able to snatch it. And I think some of that was the Lakers' inherent weaknesses. They are very, very top-heavy talent-wise. And I think some of that was the fact that the Timberwolves played remarkably good defense. I thought I told everybody to take the over, not a gambler, but no,
Here we go.
you know. And as it turned out, the Wolves fulfilled their end of the bargain after that rough first half of the first quarter. But the Lakers were held under 100 points.
Let's start there with the first quarter. So the beginning of the game, 6 minutes into the game, as that's when the first sub comes in the game. Always for this team is the same way they approached it this time. And DiVincenzo and Reed come into the game. The Wolves are down 15-7.
Yep.
Which is like
the low point.
And we make that joke all the time about this team because of approach and because, we're 6 minutes in the game, the Wolves are in single digits and they're down by 10. I mean, it happened. And what you were saying at the beginning there of like, this is baked into their DNA. It felt like that in the first 6 minutes, but then for the final 42, it was like, okay, maybe this is the team that in the playoffs has a different DNA, and doesn't have the full-on slippage. Yeah, the lead got up to 20 in the second half. Maybe it slipped down to 12, 11, something like that. But for the most part, the only thing that really looked and felt like the regular season Minnesota Timberwolves, or the rough parts of them, was the first 6 minutes of the game. The starters not effectively going 7-15. DiVincenzo and Reed come in and the bench completely flips the game over right there. And I mean, even into the second quarter, they
Right.
survive the first quarter. They're down 21-28. Then they go on a 12-2 run with, Gobert and Edwards both off the floor. I mean, to me, I don't want to just keep it as simple as the bench flipped the game and that's why they won. But if we were doing a 6-minute podcast rather than the 60-minute one, that would be the story. I mean, like, seriously, it was so driven by the way that they started playing, that Dante DiVincenzo and Naz Reid showed them to play as they've pressed that button so many times during the regular season. And I think that they immediately did it is what turned.
I would add Jaden McDaniels to that, who stayed in. I mean, was out, but then in. But
he was in at the start of that second quarter on the run.
But when it was 15-7, what you saw was a very, very sclerotic offense again. No movement, a lot of looking around, head up dribbling, and a lot of meaningless passes. These kinds of passes where you're giving it to someone else to look at things rather than going. Naz Reid comes into the game, and DiVincenzo came into the game too, but the most noticeable person in terms of moving with the ball, moving without the ball, and making quick decisions, especially on a shot, was Naz. And it loosened something in the team, throughout the team, when that happened. And so I think that was a huge part of what happened. They went on that 26-6 run in the second quarter after basically holding their own. They scored 7 points in the first 6 minutes, and then the last 6 minutes they scored 14. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's a difference. That's functional offense. And I think that Naz had a lot to do with that. DiVincenzo had some to do with it. And especially in the second quarter, when he began owning the boards with 2 putbacks, a 3, and everything else, Jaden McDaniels also was huge.
Yeah, there was that point in the second quarter where I poked John. I was like, everyone on the team in plus minus is plus except for Ant, right? And I just think the cool thing about the bench, and Finch, I think, got like pretty, not emotional, but at post game when he was talking about the bench, he reemphasized that theme all season about we have, like, I think he said it was a blessing or a pleasure.
He said, yeah, it's a blessing
to have 8 starters. And when he brought in those 3 bench starters, the thing I've loved about them all season is that they just throw a bunch of chaos at you. They throw a bunch of pace, but they also do it in kind of a controlled way. My favorite stat of the night was that the team had 10 turnovers and Julius had 7 of them, right? The bench had 1 turnover between those 3 other 8 starters that played like 84 combined minutes. So they came in, they ironically settled the team down by also, to Britt's point, playing faster, moving without the ball. And as soon as they got cooking, I mean, it wasn't over in the second quarter, but it was a punch that really kind of rattled the Lakers, and they didn't really have an adjustment for it.
I thought Edwards, Randall, and Gobert all struggled in this game for sure in the first half.
Within the first half,
for first half for sure. And it was kind of in the way that we've seen that threesome struggle before, where, it is the defense is set to take away the interior, right? I mean, well, that's the only place Rudy's going to score, right? That's I mean, if they're for Ant, that's the dangerous part of his game is getting downhill, and for Julius as well. It was a hard defensive game plan from the Lakers, as loaded as they were in on boxes and elbows, for any of those three guys to do their typical thing of how they generate their own individual offense. I think by going to DiVincenzo and Reed, you now switch your personnel. It literally flipped the script, right, of what you were trying to get. You were trying to get something on the perimeter of the floor, and then all that had to happen. I mean, and I'd be concerned about this if I was the Lakers, was anybody gets middle, the other players reposition themselves on the player on the perimeter for the Wolves, and someone is open for a three. The first half, and particularly in that second quarter, it was Naz Reid right in the corner, because the defense is sucked in prioritizing taking away the middle of the floor and leaving those the perimeter open. And I mean, I'm not in my head enough to think about how the Lakers adjust off of that, but if they have to guard that way to prevent Edwards and Randall and Gobert from getting theirs on the interior, I don't know. That's a pretty easy way to generate offense off of it.
But what's interesting to me is in the first half, when it was effective against Ant for whatever reason, he was 3 for 9, but 3 for 8 inside the arc.
I mean, you know what reason though?
Oh, I know.
Yeah. He said for whatever reason, it's because there's so many guys there.
I mean, right. But and that is one of the issues I have. It was so aggravating because we heard all week, this is what we're going to do. We are going to be disciplined. We're going to get off the ball so we can get it back after we move it. It doesn't matter who shoots it. But the idea is to put a little pace into it. And pace means so many different things. I remember when Quinn Snyder was coaching Utah, and they were really, really slow pace, but they had some of the most passes of any team. There is a way, and they weren't meaningless passes, Meaningful passes only happen when people are moving so that they're repositioned to get them. And that wasn't happening with any of the 5 people that started this game. And consequently, it just made it pretty obvious that the Lakers either had figured out a good defensive alignment against this Timberwolves team, or this Timberwolves team, everything that came out of their mouths and all these lessons that they profess to have learned for an entire week was once again lost in the glare of, now we have to do something. And that's aggravating.
I just keep coming back to one of the things I was looking forward to in this series was how long of a leash Jackson Hayes would have. And he played 4 minutes in the first quarter and then got pulled right away. I think he played 96 seconds to start the third quarter before he got pulled. So they just said right away, like, we're going to try to small ball you to death. And I thought it was really interesting, just kind of something to keep an eye on. But my dad texted me that the third quarter coaches interview, when they asked Redick, like, what are the adjustments you can make to try to figure this thing out? And he goes, we don't have adjustments to make. We just need to play harder. That's not usually something you hear from a coach in the first game. But to that point, when Jaden was asked post-game at a podium moment, like, what was it like for you? How did you get going? I mean, obviously he hits the corner threes, but how did you get going? He said, when Jackson Hayes left the court, I was the tallest guy on the floor, and I could just get wherever I wanted to go, get to the rim. I think the Wolves had, by some point in the fourth quarter, they had 15 misses around the rim. No Jackson Hayes. Like, to me, when I leave this game and I leave Staples Center tonight, my 2 big questions are you shocked they won game 1? No, because I think that's always the gettable game sometimes for a road team. And then 2, is this repeatable? And yes, they shot 50% from 3, but they were 4th in the league all season from 3. Like, I think there's more. I mean, Finch said it best. There's more meat on the bone, I think, for this team to wake up tomorrow, look at the film, be like, there's still a lot that we can do better against the Lakers.
I think it's repeatable against this coverage look. I mean, the Lakers' plan, as was Phoenix's, is we don't have good enough point of attack defenders to control Anthony Edwards on our own, right? Nope, there's not a Lou Dort out there to be able to, to handle him. So then you're really less concerned about the guy at the point of attack guarding Ant, and you're more concerned about the gap helpers behind him at the elbow. And when they, Kyle, it's a tradition. the lights turned off for us in here again. But when they don't have that, when they don't have a point of attack defender, they have to stay in in that sort of way. So it makes me wonder, what do you do? Because the move would be to guard him like just with Vanderbilt or just with Finney Smith on the perimeter, and then maybe you're doing like the 2 on the ball thing that we've seen all the time, and you're more trapping Ant to get off of it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Redick and them, decide to pursue this. But against that look, it just seemed like the Wolves got in such a good rhythm of, if somebody can get into the middle and somebody else can reposition to where the defense is now slid over, again, off in the corner. I'm not sure what without going back to look at it, nothing really comes to my mind there. It makes me think they have to change what they're doing.
Well, for me, I continue to believe that if they're both on their games, both defenses have difficulty stopping the offense. Yeah. And I think in this particular case, I'm not at all surprised by the Wolves 117. I am very surprised by the Lakers 95. And I will tell you, your favorite stat, you said my favorite stat is at 5 minutes and 4 seconds left in the second quarter, Luka Doncic hit Rui for a 3-pointer to stop a 26-6 run. That was Luka Doncic's only assist of the game.
Wow. No, wait. Is that
Yes,
for real?
wait.
Yeah. Yes.
Wait. Oh, my God.
So when I wrote the column, I basically said, you need to take something away from Luka. And I said, the Wolves have done a pretty good job of that with Jokic in postseason series. Luka's a more difficult challenge. Well, Luka got 37 tonight, and he earned them. He worked really hard to get them. But the other guys were shut off. Austin Reeves did not have an impactful night. LeBron James did not have an impactful night. Rui did not have an impactful night. What you saw was Luka getting 37 and the rest of the team getting what? 95 is what, 58? So the rest of the team got 58.
In the second half, before garbage time, before kind of the white flag was waved, the trio that Britt just mentioned of Luka, LeBron, and Reeves had 40 points. The rest of the Lakers had 2, and that was a Vando putback. And speaking of Vando, since he's here, he's going to play a lot more. He was probably one of the bright spots for them in terms of adjustments. Again, like trying to think of I don't think JJ Redick truly believes that this team has no more adjustments to make. I do think the Lakers need to play harder, but Vando, I think, just mixed it up a lot. He's going to lack a lot offensively. I don't think he's going to you've seen him in LA space in the corner a little bit, and he'll take a corner 3, but he's going to try to mix it up a little bit more. But that's one option that they'll throw at you.
Well, he could be the Dort. Like he's the only option to be. And I don't know, like, how long could he do that without him fouling? How is it even fair to call him that type of, defender? He is physical, can move his feet and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think you're feeling great if you're the Lakers and you go, well, what we need to do more of is play more Jared Vanderbilt in a game after a game where you just scored 95 points and an offensive rating of 106. I mean, it was a rough offensive game, and I think the more you play him, the more you free Rudy to do even more defensively, because he's a guy that you can ignore.
Losing teams tell themselves a story. And in this particular case, the Lakers told themselves that the Timberwolves are the more physical team.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we need to it's just a translation of Redick saying we just need to play harder.
Right.
Being more physical really means being harder, getting into people a little bit more. And I think they'll get chippier. I think that there was a period of time when I began to worry about the Wolves and composure. There was a period of time where Luka tried foul baiting for a while and did a decent job. There was one time Randall ran over him because Luka stopped. And, it's just one of those things. It's legal. And, you can do it and it works. And there were other times where Vando kind of tried to get underneath Nas's skin, I think, at a period of time. They began to resort to a kind of turning the game a little chippy to up their own emotional quotient. I think that they were guilty, as they felt the same way I did after the first 6 minutes of the game. This was the game plan. The game plan is working. Mm-hmm. This team is stymied by what we're presenting to them. And the beauty of what I've seen since January, when the Timberwolves started playing at 119 points per 100 possessions when they're healthy, which they did in 3 of the 4 months, and the other month that they didn't was February when everybody was hurt on either side of the All-Star break. They began to have 2 types of offense. They began to have the starters being crisp and efficient in the half court, and they began to have the bench be a little bit more freewheeling. And when they blended those lineups, I thought Finch did a good job of getting the right people. Randall and Ant both like tastes of that. And if you give them a little bit of that, it's like, dessert after the vegetables of the half court of just moving things around. Everybody likes to play up tempo.
Right.
And when you have DiVincenzo and Nas, they're gamblers. And that gambling really, really helps sometimes. And I just feel like Nas came in with a questionable history of clutch play and about a month and a half of really iffy shooting. And so I thought he was going to be a real big X factor. And I have no idea whether this is the Nas we're going to have, indefinitely.
But don't you think against that look, though? I mean, if it's open threes.
Well, I mean, but think of Nas is one of those guys that sometimes it matters if they're open or not. But for the most part, if Nas is on, he's making the shots. And if he isn't making them. And that's when, he's obviously better going off the bounce. I thought it was really good that he went right at people early. And then, as you correctly pointed out, getting middle and kicking to the corners really is a good thing to do, because let's face it, this is not a quick team. The Lakers are not a quick team. They're extremely smart, experienced team, and they have a lot of talent, but most of their talent is on the offensive end. And I think, it's weird that the Wolves holding this team to 95 points probably should be the story, but it is always more fun to watch some team roar back and take the lead. And if it's a 26-6 run or an 11-0 run, you tend to think of the 11 and the 26 more than you think of the 0 and the 6.
All right, let's grab our first break here. You guys know what the mic and drill is, right? Do you know what that is, Britt? You know the mic and drill? Kyle, remember the mic and drill when you were a kid? So the mic and drill is like you go to the right side of the basket, you make a right-handed layup, you grab it out of the net, go left side, you go back and forth. It's George Mikan. Our sponsor today is called My Hoops, and My Hoops is reimagining basketball education and redefining the on-court learning environment. So I bring up the mic and drill and that because George Mikan retired in 1956, and it's still the mic and drill is an old, antiquated drill that we use to, teach kids how to play basketball at a young age. So basically what My Hoops is they are taking youth basketball development, making it more efficient by getting rid of old drills, antiquated coaching methods, while also keeping the focus on having it be fun. This starts with their Summer Fast Break Development League. Registration for the Fast Break Development League can be found at the link in the show notes or by going to myhoops.co. That's myhoops.co. The continuous play and limited stoppage that they play with in this league also allows the kids to explore and improve their skill in a fast and, again, fun environment. They use a gameplay style that's continuous, 4-on-3, 3-on-2. That's something we remember from when we were kids too. But they do this so the game keeps going, and they limit the defensive rules that reduces the amount of dead balls and turnovers. So it leads to the scoring to be nearly double a normal youth 5-on-5 basketball game. It's perfect for second sport athletes or even casual players. You can register as an individual, group, or full team at the registration link below, or again by going to myhoops.co. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and I don't know how did mine do. I was big on Rudy to have more than 24 points plus rebounds plus assists. That did not prove to be true. I thought that was limiting. I was like, I don't think that's a good number because it's limiting his minutes. Well, Rudy's minutes were limited. He only played 24 in this one. I think I also had Nikhil. Did that one go? I had Nikhil more or less than 11. Oh yeah, that one tied at least. Obviously, if you're looking at Prize Picks for the next Wolves game, I'm sure they'll have those up by the time you're listening to this. The numbers never move as much as you think. Like Naz Reid's numbers won't be that much higher, but if you believe that this is a series where Naz has more opportunity, to be able to do this. I mean, you can do more thans on Nas's numbers or Dante DiVincenzo's numbers when those are set there, or if you believe, or I don't know, maybe Rudy's numbers that are set on there go way down, and you can go more than that there. Maybe they are going to need Rudy more in the next game. So whether it's for this Wolves-Lakers series or any of these NBA playoff games, PrizePicks.com or the PrizePicks app, you can use the promo code Dane for $50 when you submit your first $5 lineup.
I'm getting Britt an account on the way back to the hotel tonight. We're gonna set him up.
Yeah.
PrizePicks really is sweet though during the playoffs because it's like coaching. Like you can kind of figure out like it's the biggest advantage you have is like a little bit of like I think they're gonna pivot. I think they're gonna make this adjustment. I think they're gonna play this guy more. So you do have a little bit of an edge. So yeah, check out PrizePicks.
Kyle, let's talk about Jaden McDaniels. I mean, I know he was part of that bench group, which was a cool thing, right? That Jaden just like he was part of the kind of toxic starting group there. Yet he was the one of the 5 starters that whenever he was out there, he was helping the game. And let's hold talking about the Luka part. I mean, Luka had a big stat line. Jaden was there, but just offensively, Kyle, we saw this from Jaden in the playoffs last year too, where the offense elevates or he gets more opportunity to go. What stood out to you most about Jaden's offensive game?
Jaden McDaniels is a hell of a basketball player. He's not a hell of a quote. So post-game, most of my fun came from his best friend, Nas Reed, sitting at the podium with him. Yeah. But I do think there's a real message behind the scenes with his friends, Ant and Nas specifically, that when you say like, Jaden, you were 25 points tonight, 11 of 13, 3 for 3 from 3, everyone on the team will be like, yeah, he's always been that way. He's just never been able to show it. And some of that's like, okay, but when he's stuck in the corner and that's it, and he's just a 3, I mean, he's, Gabe Vincent or something, he's just not as successful. He's not as dominant. But tonight, I think the Jaden growth this season, obviously his offensive game has expanded when Julius is out, those big January and February. But the thing I'm going to be the most proud of as someone who really likes watching this game is just the way he attacks the glass. I think he led the team tonight rebounding again with 9 rebounds. Some of those were just got the rebound right at the rim, put it right back up because he was the tallest guy on the court. But man, Britt and I were talking during the game and after the game. He just looked so poised for a guy that was not his MO coming out of Washington. And even when it got a little hairy there, Finch gets a tee, Julius gets a tee. Jaden was the guy out there being like, everyone chill out. So he looked about as comfortable playing basketball as I've ever seen. And I think he was one of the, not to say the same phrase, but one of the big X factors coming into this because last season against the Mavs, when the Mavs beat the Wolves in 5 in the Western Conference Finals, they didn't get much from Jaden, and they just kind of said, yeah, go beat us. And he really couldn't do that over all 5 games. And tonight, I mean, in that first quarter when it was really hairy, he was, for that 6-8 minute stint, like their best player, and they needed him just to kind of stay afloat and not drown early.
Britt, you asked him about guarding Luka in this game tonight versus what it was like in the Dallas series in the Western Conference Finals. I remember exactly what it was. He was saying they were playing more on his hip last year. Yeah, go ahead. What
no, I'm really glad you remembered something from it because, I mean, that's the thing about he gives you so little. But I think part of it, what he doesn't want to say is there was some clarity. I mean, what was clear to me and obviously clear to everybody else was that, yeah, there were going to be times when there were switches and there were going to be times when it wasn't there. But when we get the information, when NBA.com's stats appear tomorrow morning and everything, you will find that by far the greatest on-ball defender of Luka tonight was Jaden McDaniels. And I really think a lot of the fact that Luka was so concentrated on shooting the ball and could not get assists is because he was not able to survey the floor as much as he usually is. And I think that Luka played either 3-point shooting or hurried and harried toward the rim tonight. And I think that is the way to play him. And yes, I mean, Luka did have a fantastic night. He was 5 for 10 from 3, which is, that if he hits 50% of his shots, I said before the series, if he's going to hit 45% of his shots throughout the playoffs, like he did in the last playoff series, the series is over. Well, he's 50% right now and they're 0-1. So a lot of it does have to do with the fact that they took away some things from Luka tonight, and Jaden McDaniels was the main guy on Luka. Meanwhile, I mean, he multitasked in a way that was pretty remarkable. He was the team's best rebounder. He was the calming presence. I mean, what I have always enjoyed about him, I've always talked about that rocking chair fadeaway, but everything he does when he's inside the hoop is not like brute strength. It's like looking around and figuring out. Most of the time, he just likes to hit that little floater, which he did for both putbacks. So neither one of those putbacks was like a resounding slam. It wasn't a Rudy Gobert putback. It was one of those ones where he goes up and just sort of pops it in the basket. And that was
very timely. All the scoring was extremely timely. I put in my notes, he had, so again, they started the second quarter on a 12-2 run, again, with Ant and Rudy both on the bench. And three of those buckets, and I think at least one was a three, were from Jaden. And then there was
Actually, there were four.
He had a fourth bucket.
It was a 26-6 run. Jaden had 12 points. Nas had 9. That was 21. Mike Conley had 3 for 24, and Nikhil had a layup for 26.
It was, and when they went zone in the second half too, the very first possession, Jaden punched the gap, got to the middle of the floor, and took a shot just kind of over the defense from like 9 feet, because like he said in his presser, he's like, there's nobody as big as me.
I was thinking over Rui or something, over a 6'8" guy.
For him to be able to do anything offensively while so clearly looking like the only option that they have for Luka. I mean, we saw when Jaden would sub out and Luka was still on the floor, Ant would take him. And then they off of my memory, they would put Ant in ball screen action, and then they would, then Luka has that advantage from the screen, and they would take advantage of it. There was a couple other times where we got to kind of see that maybe DiVincenzo is option 3 on Luka, because Ant missed that time with his, sore calf, or what did they say? Cramp in his calf. But I mean this in praise of Jaden. I think he is so clearly the best option and maybe only option for Luka in this series. And it gets me thinking about, okay, probably if this goes 7 and 1 or 2 of these games, a couple of the games, Jaden's going to get in foul trouble. I think Jaylen Clark has to play. That's what I put down into my note. If that happens, I do not think they can survive Luka with Ant and Dante DiVincenzo or Nikhil either. Nikhil, I think, is too small.
And one of the things that is very important is you don't let, like at football, you hit the receiver between the linebackers and the defensive backs. Luka lives between the perimeter defenders and the rim protectors. That is where Luka eats. And he was eating heartily in the first 6 minutes. A lot of his shots, it was reminiscent of Dallas in terms of making Gobert look silly, and also having people, including Jaden, on his hip, which is what Jaden was saying happened too frequently in Dallas. I don't know if an adjustment was made, or I just think that maybe Jaden began to batten down a little bit harder. I didn't see as much of that, Luka in the middle penetration. There was one time where he stopped and somebody, ran over him and he got an N1 out of it. But for the most part, again, even if he gets 37 points, which hats off to him, the fact it was a Jokic like 37 and that he was 37-1, and that just is one assist is not going to be sufficient for this team. The Lakers as a team tonight had 15 assists and 13 turnovers.
And it didn't really feel like there was a ton of potential assists for Luka. I mean, probably 3, 4, 5 more, maybe of missed threes. I would assume came from him.
It wasn't a single lob attempt.
Yeah,
and that's the three of us talked about today at breakfast. I was like, there's, my whole analysis of this series coming in was the utmost respect for one of the best to ever do it in LeBron and Luka finding his way with this new team. And they have a lot more shooting maybe than Dallas did, but they just don't have the front court to be a threat. And for whatever reason, we've talked about this Timberwolves team this year and last year, and their IQ at times, and they never solved trying to defend those lob threats. And there was no lob threats today on the court for the Lakers. And I think, again, that, you're watching that game and you're thinking about the Mark Williams trade that got rescinded
Right,
because they
100%.
just didn't have a guy like Britt was saying, Luka loves to eat on the court. Like, he loves to find those guys cutting from the baseline, and he just doesn't have that threat. And that's a real door close for him that does kind of make him be more of a scorer. And I thought, talking about Jaden's defense, it was great. But you and I were, when Jaden wasn't out there, though, like as you recap game one, but you try to like look at meat on the bone, what can the Wolves do in game two? Didn't you and I say like 5 or 6 times the defense when Jaden's not out there was bad? Like, how many times Luka, like the Wolves just lost him on an inbound, or like they were trying to, after a made bucket, they didn't know who was assigned to him. So like that's something to clean up of. If Jaden is the one, he's your shutdown corner. If he's out for a second, then it's Ant, or then it's Dante. But there was times tonight where I thought they got a little mixed up in that first half, and Luka made him pay.
Yeah, I think him staying out of foul trouble is as important as anything in this series, because if I do think they will be able to make the Lakers will be able to make some defensive adjustments to approach it differently. But part of their answer, I think, for game two and the rest of the series just has to be, we need to score more. If you're the Lakers, we need to score more efficiently, more effectively, play through Luka, keep generating open looks for perimeter players around Luka, and, have that game. I mean, if I'm JJ Redick, I'm looking at this 106 offensive rating and saying, there's no way that we can play with this team if our offense isn't. I don't know. I would imagine they put more chips into that offensive basket, and if you're doing that, and Luka Doncic is on your team, that's just being more heavily reliant on Luka.
2 ways Luka gets a ton of assists compared to other players. One is the lob, the other is the football pass. We didn't see that tonight either. We didn't see a defensive rebound grabbed, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that this I'm getting from LeBron. I didn't look it up, but LeBron said it was 25-9 in fast break points. If that's true, that's a minus 16 for the Lakers. That is their meat on the bone, perhaps.
Yeah.
Is they need to use, football passes. At the very least, they need to use those, 18-foot passes that go from one to another to create a good hockey assist for somebody setting up before the Wolves, because the Wolves are not a good transition defense usually. And that would be one of the places I actually thought where the Lakers were going to get a lot of points. And I also think that Austin Reeves is really, really good in transition. He's good at pulling up, and he's good and if he can get frisky, he's also a momentum player. So I can see, I really do believe this will be a higher scoring series moving forward. And I will tell you, if it isn't, then I think the Lakers are in trouble, because the Wolves have found some things. The Wolves have versatility. And one of the ways the Wolves showed their versatility tonight was the Lakers were bound and determined to stop Rudy Gobert and bound and determined to stop Julius Randle. But there's a third big on this team.
Yep.
And they don't have the people to defend 3 bigs.
In terms of adjustments, though, I'm just curious while we're on this topic, because we all stayed loyal and went to the Finch and then all the Timberwolves post-game pressers, but I was reading the notes from the Lakers. Redick, LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves all said the word physical twice in their post-game comments. And I'm just curious of, like, I think you're right. They got to find ways to score more offensively. But I don't know if that's the I don't know if this Lakers team, knowing the roster and, if like being more physical is something that the Wolves are necessarily frightened by. How do you out physical a team?
So they were saying that
they were all saying
need to play more
physical. Yeah. And playing harder is a simple way to be like, hey guys, we treated this like a game in January, right? A Wednesday night game. We got to bring more energy, but I don't know if I look at that Lakers roster, obviously they're going to play more Vando, but I don't know how I see that roster being more physical against a team that has, like you just said, these 3 bigs and Ant and Jaden and all these other options.
I think it's, getting to the line again. If the vision is we need to score at a more efficient clip for the Lakers, then I'm thinking, all right, transition, right? Let's press that efficiency button. Let's push for that more to get a lot more easy buckets. That's going to juice your offense. I'm looking to play off of threes off of Luka, right? And, the quarter 3 game there, that's a highly efficient shot. And I'm looking to get to the free throw line more. I mean, I know those are the things that everybody's looking for, but those are the 3 areas in which, you generate the best offense in the aggregate. And just looking at it here, what did they? LA was 5 of 12 on corner threes tonight in this game, and in transition, only 10% of their offense came in transition. That's a very, very low number, and then there's no real free throws on either side of this. It did feel like they kind of needed, and then maybe that's where LeBron comes in, to be able to be the guy who is forcefully physical downhill, kind of like Jimmy Butler, of like, hey, this is another way for us to get offense here, is just me finding a way to get to the free throw line. I don't know if they meant it offensively or defensively. I think the Lakers need to play more physically offensively and impose their will of getting to their spots and getting to more effective offense.
Here's the thing. If they were 5 for 12 from the corners, that meant they were 10 of 29 from out above the break, because they were 15 for 41 overall. And then the other thing is, LeBron did try to do that. He tried to play some hero ball, a la what we don't like about Ant, when they were getting way down in the third quarter. And Nas had a phenomenal block. Maybe it was the second quarter. Nas had a beautiful block, and they went down and scored. And then LeBron tried it again, and Rudy blocked the shot. And so that was a message. And LeBron, was 1 of 5 from 3, which meant he was 7 of 13 from 2. We'll take that. I mean, if the Timberwolves are in their locker room looking at that stat line and saying, okay, LeBron had 19 points, turned the ball over 4 times, and had 3 assists, minus 22. But that's one of the reasons he is minus 22, is because he was not effective. He was not the sidekick of a legitimate NBA championship contender.
And guarded by the guy that you were most concerned about his defense in this series. I mean, it was
Julius
a lot of
job.
Julius on him, right? And Julius is physical, if nothing else, defensively.
Right. And Julius doesn't mind mixing it up, and in a manner that does send a message. He wants to send a message. And I think that he likes to get his licks in, and he's not getting his licks in on offense because they want to take that bang, bang away from him. So I have said all along that the most impressive thing about Julius for me this season has been his ability to guard opposing bigs. And in this case, 200
qualifies.
250-pound LeBron James is really about as big as they get over there.
I just wanted to talk to you guys. It struck me when we were doing the post-game press conference, and it's Ant and Julius, came out and did theirs together. And, I'm thinking of the playoffs last year, and it was Ant and Cat.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder of, how these things turn over quickly. Obviously, it's been a story the whole time. But it was interesting to watch Ant and Julius kind of play off of each other in that press conference setting, in the way that Carl and Ant did, which is like, he does this for me, I do that for you, and there, I just left the press conferences today thinking that this group is a little bit more connected than I thought it was going in, and last year during the playoffs, when we were talking about why this team could make a run and could do it, is because that group did feel very connected. I know this is a little like,
I said, we vibing now?
Yeah. I mean, it's something like that. Look, man, I didn't think the Wolves had a very good chance at winning this series. And, and I know it's only one game right now, but what my reasoning for that was, first and foremost, Luka Doncic and just the scar tissue of the Western Conference Finals. But the second biggest thing for me, and I think I could speak on this from a position of authority of being around this team as much as I have, is it just hasn't felt connected in that sort of way. So I don't know if I'm like living in the vibe of what this is in this moment right now, but I'm wondering if I underrated the connectivity of this group and what that can mean specifically for, kind of sanding the rougher edges of this team. Because I think that's what the connectivity of last year's group did. It made Kat and Rudy make more sense together, right? As they found that it made the bench flow into the starters more. It was a connected group. I never thought of the 24-25 Timberwolves as an extremely connected group. And I wonder if I missed that.
We're doing this right after the game, so normally Dane does a great job of cutting up videos and maybe he'll tweet them out. But if you want to go back and watch the Ant and Julius post-game press conference, I thought there was a lot of good stuff from it, including Ant talking about being a leader at 23. Naz Reid said sometimes he acts like he's 30.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to vibe for a second, because the last thing I did before I went out and watched Wolves-Lakers was watch Kat kind of cook and help the Knicks come back down in the fourth to win that game. And then to watch Ant and Julius play together, to watch Julius go toe-to-toe with LeBron, and then post-game to hear those guys talk about it. They kind of talked like a team that had a big trade 48 hours before media day. And it just took them a little bit to kind of figure it out. And then, and maybe this is just super, super vibey, but the only bucket Rudy Gobert had tonight was a lob from Julius.
Yep.
In that Cat role where Julius gets to the middle, has the perfect timing. I mean, you didn't see that in October, November, December, or even January. So I think you're totally right. Again, I think their energy is, we still are doubted. The Lakers are going to win. We want to be greedy. Like, we haven't done shit yet. But I think those guys post-game echoed a lot of the things that you guys heard them say all week about saying all the right things, being a cohesive unit, and really playing for one another. I mean, Julius is 7 years older than Ant, and he was saying, I come to the gym and I learn so much from that kid's energy. Like, he makes you want to be better.
What do you, as a vibes expert yourself, Britt?
I think two things. I think they come from the head coach and they come from the best player. And I said this to you earlier today. I think Chris Finch's top priority is keeping his core regulars happy. I think it means more to him than X's and O's. I think he feels like if everybody is on the same page and pulling for each other and happy, then that other stuff will be easier to execute. And if I start to prioritize that other stuff, I'm afraid what is really going to matter to this team will be diminished. And it can certainly be questioned, and there are definitely times during the season when it should have been questioned. But I think what you had here is Jalen Clark didn't play, really. I mean, until, and it wasn't a surprise. But those 8 people different people showed up. It could have been Julius Randle. It could have been Rudy Gobert. Neither one of them would have surprised me tonight. Mike Conley wouldn't have surprised me. Instead, it's Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and to some extent, Dante DiVincenzo.
It was exactly what the game gave them.
Exactly. But
and
also,
the main guys played bad, but that was the other guys filled into what the game gave them. And that's a connection, I think.
And also, I just got through with the coach, but who would not want to sit next to Ant as his teammate next to him on a podium? You know that he is going to make you sound with all the prestige he has and all the clout he has from, all the coolest corners of culture. He is going to embrace you. And, I learned that from Julius. I learned how to be 1% better every day from Julius. I mean, that is an incredibly generous thing for Anthony Edwards to say, as Julius Randle routinely gets criticized by me, among others, of not trying hard enough sometimes. And it's the kind of thing that when you've struggled through a game where you had 7 turnovers and did a lot of the dirty work and had a rough game, as Ann had a rough game, but at the same time came out smelling sweet because everybody did band together. That's where your vibes are from. Your vibes are from the fact that Ant, as rotten a first half as he had, he was -1 in 18 minutes, and the team was +12 in the 6 otherwise. He came back his first play of the second half was hitting Jaden in the corner for a three right away on a drive and kick. We didn't see that practically the entire first half.
Right.
And then Rudy gets free for a dunk from Julius. It's like, oh, all the things they talked about for the entire week. Here it is. We don't have to have Nas bailing them out or Jaden suddenly playing like a 7-footer to bail them out. Now we have the system that's actually was supposed to be in place. Now it's in place. I don't think that can get reinstituted, and I don't think that this team can be resilient that way tonight if you don't have a vibes-oriented coach and a vibes-marinated superstar.
Speaking of that, coach, since I have your attention, I just wanted to read you a stat because I think Britt and I are still fighting the good fight sometimes to remind people how good of a coach Chris Finch is. But I thought you'd get a kick out of this. The first 32 seasons of this franchise's history, the Wolves were 1-10 in the playoffs in Game 1. In the last 4 seasons, they're 4-2 in Game 1s, and 3 of those times they were the lower seed. He's a hell of a coach, man. And X's and O's sometimes. They start out those first 4 minutes, and you're like, why does Julius Randle keep throwing the ball to Jack Black? But he trusts those guys, and he knows that when he pulls the lever to put Dante in, and then when he puts Nas in, that those guys, it might not always be schematically the most detail-oriented, but those guys just kind of play well together, and the cohesion they have from last year, and a lot of the same guys that went to the Western Conference Finals last year on this team, I think it's a pretty cool thing.
It's a really good way to put it, Britt, and true, and I think a little odd and rare that that's the way that Finch approaches it. And it's not that he doesn't know X's and O's. It's not that he doesn't know how to do these things, but what he prioritizes is, keeping his players comfortable. It is the first thing, and normally through comfort comes that happiness and that
buy-in.
joy and buy-in. That's what it is. I mean, it's why I think at times we struggle with Finch, right? Because if that's what you're aiming for, and then the vibes on the court are bad, it looks terrible, and he looks at fault because he is at fault,
and especially because the weakness of this team is literally that they feel too comfortable.
Right.
So the idea of somebody wanting comfort as the priority, I mean, that is people's vices and virtues are so close together most of the time. It's almost like, a truism. And in this case, you do need, in this case, it turned out to be Jaden McDaniels playing like he was perplexed at how badly everybody else was playing. Like, didn't you guys listen to what we heard all week? This is what I'll show you. Watch.
Fine, I'll do
this,
it.
I will guard this guy like this, and then I'll get the ball. And instead of whipping it all around or anything, I'll just look around and put it in the basket. It's just what I think is interesting is you have LA having the danger that was going to be a factor in this series. How are the Wolves going to handle the Lakers glitz and media glare and all that comes with it? But then how are Luka Doncic and LeBron James going to handle it? Because even though both have handled all kinds of stuff in their career, LeBron especially, this is the best teammate LeBron James has ever had, including Dwayne Wade, probably.
Yeah,
that's and Anthony Davis, obviously. I mean, he's had some great teammates, but he's in a position now where, I mean, Luka, it upset the league. Right. And now the expectation is, they need a center. And it obviously, if they go out and get a center, they are going to be a force for a while. And LeBron's got maybe 1 or 2 years left. But again, it is one of those situations where the Wolves were the underdog, and they're really having fun with it right now.
Help me to recap this, because I think the lack of a center is a key variable in this that I think we missed a little bit in our pregame our analysis in the week leading up. Not that we knew they only had Jackson Hayes, and I know, Kyle, you brought that up. We talked about that extensively, but at least for me, what I always pushed was, well, actually, when they take Jackson Hayes off, they have these other ways to play that seemingly would be better for
Bruisers, right?
for the Wolves. But that was, at least again for game one, it wasn't, and the Wolves, specifically their bench, was able to take advantage of it. And I would again bring home in a recap of the bench, because it took until the third quarter for the Wolves to figure out, the starters, the main guys, to figure out how do we play the game plan that we put in all week. It took them 2 full quarters to figure that out. And so if you don't get Nasri doing what he did in the first half, you don't get Dante DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing like starters, I'm not sure you get to the point in the third quarter where you can kind of like, or even at halftime, kind of like exhale and be like, all right, back to our stuff. If Nas and Dante and them don't play like that, and the Wolves are down by 14 at half, I don't think those are the first possessions of the third quarter that you just, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely true. No, and that's why I do say that I think that Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid are probably the 2 most influential players. Naz because he set the tone on offense, and Jaden because he busted the idea that you were going to be able to stop bigs by denying them the ball, or because of the fact that they're both a little bit klutzy in their own very different ways.
Right.
Rudy, especially if you make him think about his hands, or you make him think of hurrying Rudy Gobert up, is a bad thing for him. And Randall, I think, is somebody who is turnover prone. They had his spin move on that turnaround scouted. That's where at least 2 of his turnovers came from, where he dribbles out to like 8 feet directly in front of the hoop, peeks one way and turns another. Well, the turn. So they had those ways of defending these guys down. And they were thinking, oh, yeah, Jaden McDaniels has improved this year, and we do have to watch him, but he's still the 5th priority. Well, that's because Jaden McDaniels wasn't just a catch and shoot guy in the corner tonight. He was crashing, and he was finding his points in the paint a lot. And he was also grabbing key rebounds. And the fact that he was already there because Luka spent so much time down there was another bonus. So I think when Redick looks over the next 3 days and looks carefully at the film, there are 2 things that are really going to preoccupy him.
Yeah, it's just, I was like, it's crazy. It's 3 days, anyways.
I know. How to stop Nas.
Yeah.
How to stay with Nas off the ball, and how to prevent McDaniels from owning as much of the boards and the paint as he owned without diverting too many resources from the other bigs. I don't think those are easy answers. And that's why the Wolves offense has crept up on people. It is as good as their defense. And, and obviously, as in most things blend into each other. But tonight, I really do think that Naz Reid reminded people how to play offense. And I think that Jaden basically taught them how to be big, lean into bigness again.
One of my flaws is that I just constantly think the latest thing is the greatest thing. So I was hyped for this game, but I am truly excited for 5 days from now, game 2, because I think JJ Redick has a really good analytical staff. I think he's a really good coach for being a first-year coach and being a former player. But my take this morning to you guys was that I think this Lakers team is a little closer to that Suns team last year than they were to that Mavericks team. And I know that sounds disrespectful, but I can't wait to see on Tuesday 2 things. One, we just talked about it, and we talked about all year. As soon as the pendulum swings for the Wolves and they start feeling themselves, they'll let you down. And they will play like that, and they will just completely shit the bed. And 2, you can't win. I don't think the Lakers can win a basketball game against the Timberwolves if LeBron has 19, 5, and 3. I just don't think, like, they need a big performance from him. Austin Reeves is really good, but he's not Kyrie. Like, they need a second banana on Tuesday to kind of swing this back in their favor. And for LeBron to play 36 minutes, only 2 free throws and 19 points,
and Reeves too, man. I mean, 3 and 3, a minus 25.
We've all watched LeBron for the last 22 years. I just don't remember the LeBron that I'll remember when he was in his high 20s or early 30s. Like, he's not getting blocked by Nas. He's not getting blocked by Rudy. Father Time gets you at some point, and they're going to need to find ways to get him going because Luka's just going to continue to average these box scores and then some, and he's probably going to have a 50-piece one game and just really hit it from deep. But for the guy that kind of was famous for coming back from 3-1, like I just can't wait to see what LeBron does on Tuesday because there's a lot of adjustments you can make. But for LeBron, Redick's advice of just play harder, he might just have to dig to a level of whether he's healthy or not, of he's got to be way more support for Luka.
I think that's the right spot. I mean, him and Reeves. And I think with LeBron is like he has many different modes, right? And obviously in his prime he could tap into any of them like whenever he wanted to. I do still think he can be great at the thing that he's focused on and prioritizing. It wasn't clear to me, what that was. And then I do think what to me it screams that they need is more of a downhill threat because, for both Luka and Reeves, they're getting their points more in the same sort of way from the perimeter or getting, to the middle of the floor, trying to draw fouls or making, some of those tough mid-range shots there. Who on this team for the Lakers can really try and punish the Wolves? They did not take advantage of Rudy Gobert being off the floor defensively. And how do you do that? You do that by getting to the basket. We saw that all year. It was like that group when it was Reed and Randall out there, that was susceptible to straight line drives all the time. And I think LeBron has to be that guy. And maybe to your point, I mean, I don't know at this age, can he be that? Can he be, does he need to be that every game? Can he do that for every single game? I don't know, but I do think that's the place. Him and Reeves is the place. I don't know where else you would look.
Bingo. Where else are you going to look? Because in some playoff series, you're like, oh, they just pulled, if Nikhil is just getting cooked for the first two games, like, I guess we'll just go to Jalen Clark, right? Or we need a spark. We're desperate. Terrence Shannon Jr. Look at the Lakers box score. Like, who else? They played the 8 guys tonight that can play. There is no Shake Milton revenge tour coming. Like, they don't really have a lot of other options. They're not going to play Alex Len. Like, they really have to. An adjustment that JJ Redick can't make is just pulling a card out of the hat. Like, they have to just get better production from the guys that they're 8 starters, they're 8 guys. And I think it's going to be fascinating because, again, LeBron is the king of kind of waiting patiently at the chessboard, seeing it all play out. But I've also watched enough LeBron games that I didn't really get the sense like that tonight. Like, he just, they're going up against a really physical team, and there's going to be a lot of ways to probably even the series on Tuesday 1-1, but I don't know if they can out physical a team that has Ant and Julius.
I think the path forward is altering what Luka does. I think the fact that he can do anything and that he was so lopsided tonight, 37 points, 1 assist, that they will try to scheme things now where Luka is more like a 25 and 15 assist. And I think that will enable the confidence of Reeves and LeBron. And I think if Luka is doing more getting into that middle zone and getting Jackson Hayes for lobs or getting other people for lobs, even if they don't make them often enough, it will be a wrinkle, and it will be something where they decided that Luka would be phenomenally heavy usage tonight, and it cost him. He had 9 free throws. The rest of the team had 7. And, I mean, it just is one of those things. Once again, he led the team in rebounds. He is the leader. He has led the Lakers in rebounds since he joined the Lakers. He is their leading rebounder. So I get it. But what we don't see here, I mean, we don't see double-digit assists. We see the fact that Ant had 9 and Luka had 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, if that continues to happen, it's going to be a short series.
I do think Luka's scoring, though, keeps him lubed up. And for like a 15 assist game, it is one game. But I have watched a lot of this Lakers team since they got Luka. I don't know where he's going to get those other 14 assists from unless LeBron catches. I mean, they really need Austin Reeves and LeBron to.
I'm telling you, dude, I think it's Jaden getting in foul trouble. I think they will.
Easy one.
I think they will go Luka all first quarter at Jaden
and make him a scorer, right? Or just.
I just think go at it. I think that's where it cracks and Luka becomes this 37
Okay,
and the double-digit assist guy is when people other than Jaden McDaniels are guarding him. I think the Wolves would be in trouble if Jaden can't guard. I've said that like 3 different times on this.
And foul trouble hasn't been a thing for him this season.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you're right.
Fascinating. It's another reason why Tuesday is.
We're looking for Lakers things here,
for
sure.
And one way to do that might be to put Austin Reeves on the ball and have Luka be
That's a really good one, actually,
on the side, and then use Luka in passes. Basically, run screens so that Luka can make cuts.
I remember he had one in the beginning of the third quarter, like double pin down for him. He came off of it, and he needs to be the offense.
It was their first shot of the fourth quarter after he hit
what it was?
After he hit the half quarter to make it like 13 or whatever. First play out of the fourth quarter was that play, and he hits a 3, and it's like, okay, that's because just watching NBA action in person, screens are all just the trenches now. It is just offensive line play. There are no more. You're not setting screens. You are literally just putting your hands in a guy's chest and not letting him get around you.
Right. And that's what they mean by physicality, I think.
Right, we figured it out.
And also, just being able, I actually think that putting Austin Reeves on the ball will also make him feel important. And I watching him play, I think that's vitally integral to his game, that he feels like he matters out there. And he didn't matter at all tonight. I mean, I don't remember his 5 makes, quite frankly.
Mike Conley not guarding him. We thought that would happen. Mike Conley came out guarding Rui. It was different. And maybe we'll dig into maybe some more of those specifics as we rewatch that game, and maybe we'll find more tweaks having rewatched it and gone from there. Do you have a final thing over there, Kyle? So you got some big words on your screen.
No, Jace had a cool quote from Mike Conley talking about just the benefit of experience. He said, experience is real. It's a real thing, especially when you can kind of keep it within the same 8 or 9 guys who go through it together. You immediately remember things. You immediately remember Luka destroying us last season and what happened in the conference championship. You immediately remember Milwaukee a week ago when we lost a game up 24. We were up 20-something tonight. Those things pop in your mind, and you immediately try to be like, what do we got to do different? Right now it's one game and move on to the next.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to leave it. I mean, the Wolves are up 1-0. And I would imagine that at least pushes the odds back to even in this series. And I think that should be the perception right now, is this is
anybody's series.
This is anybody's series. And if anything, going off of this game, the Wolves look like they have significantly more answers than the Lakers do, because they did that. And I would not grade the Gobert, Randall, Edwards triumvirate with much more than a passing grade.
I thought you coined the phrase, but it was fun to see Finch say it tonight. This was everyone left the court and they went to the locker room. They're all standing behind the scenes like, let's be greedy. Let's get another one. Let's get another one. And then the head coach said, there's a lot of meat on the bone left for them to navigate these next couple of days in film and practice. So both teams are going to probably make a lot of adjustments that we can both play a lot harder. And that sets up for a really interesting game too.
Yeah. The Wolves couldn't play better. And I think that's the most encouraging element of this all. We're gonna be here in LA for a long time because these games are very spread apart. So we'll have more episodes while we're out here, and we'll grab Jace and Chris and John or whoever. We'll put that together, and then we'll keep trying to do these post game immediate reaction sort of pods. So I think the next up we'll do on Sunday or Monday, we'll try and get one with Jace. But until then, he's Britt, he's Kyle, I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you